Francis Ngannou's got that scary power. Man, he's got that. If you weren't quite convinced already when you almost decapitated Overeem, if you weren't quite convinced already when you saw him starch Dos Santos, maybe you just weren't quite a believer. He hadn't convinced you just yet. You thought about the Stipe fight where it looked like Stipe got caught and he just had a really nasty black eye, and you're thinking, okay, I remember I've seen things before. Maybe this guy isn't all he's cracked up to be. The power's a little bit overrated. He just happened to catch guys lucky. Put another one on the list. I mean, he comes in. That's the scary type of power. That's the type of power where he can even do things wrong, and he still catches guys and gets them out of there. I mean, look at Rozenstruik. A much more polished striker, much more experienced, with ridiculous power of his own. Stands in there, attempts to catch him with like a check hook, with a counter hook. Misses, comes through another way. Ngannou's got his chin up, leaning over his front leg, stepping forward awkwardly, throws multiple shots. Those are all things that you are taught not to do early on in your striking career. Those are problems that you will have to pay for nasty when you come up against a guy who knows how to fight. But Ngannou's that special breed because he comes in, he does all those things wrong, doesn't care because he knows all he has to do is land one punch, one shot, that's it. For Rozenstruik last night, it was the left hook. That was all it took to make him a victim, the next knockout victim. Lands that left hook. He was out before he hit the ground. And then, obviously, the even more scary part, he gets trapped up there. He's sitting. He can't fall flat, so he's sitting up against the cage. And Ngannou lands like 3 more ferocious bombs on him. Short little uppercuts inside. Bang, bang, bang. Before the ref can jump in there and pry him off. I mean, he was already, and Rozenstruik was already out at that point. And those are some shots that can typically cause a lot of damage, right? Because and Ngannou seems like an incredibly nice guy. I'm not suggesting foul play by him for even a fraction of a second. It's just that weird situation where a guy gets caught up against the cage and he's in a position where he looks like he's still up, like he hasn't fallen. And it's because of the way he got, he landed on his butt, but he was right up against the cage where he couldn't fall backwards. And when the adrenaline's flowing in the heat of the moment, like Ngannou was, you're going to keep going, right? Because ultimately, what you're taught to do is you fight until the referee stops it or until you hear the bell. That's when you stop fighting, when the referee pulls you off or when you hear the bell. You're not supposed to stop before then. Those are the only two things. So even if it looks even a little bit funny, like the guy is still up, you're going to keep going, right? Because you're trying to get the fight stopped so that you can get the win. So, but what ridiculous power he's got. I mean, he said it. We've heard it before. There's levels to this, and he was at a level that Rozenstruik just wasn't ready for, man. He appeared to be the more polished striker. He appeared to be ready, but he wasn't. Not by any stretch of the imagination. So, I know that they said, that they had petitioned the UFC before this one to try to make this fight for the interim belt. Which, I mean, if a guy's got an interim belt, what that is supposed to mean is that he's next in line for the title shot. We've seen that not play out in the past, most prominently with Tony Ferguson. Happened with Colby Covington too recently. But I don't think he needs an interim belt. I think it's pretty clear cut. I think the next title shot is going to go to Ngannou. I mean, maybe it ends up being a trilogy match between DC and Stipe. Honestly, the way things are looking now, I thought that was going to happen for sure, but the way things are looking now, I'm not 100% convinced anymore. It's kind of messed up the way the division's on hold and everything's kind of frozen waiting for it, but I mean, his name is at the front of the list. And let me tell you, I don't think anybody is looking forward to fighting him. Remember when DC was at 205 and he fought Rumble for the belt? John Jones had got stripped, and they were fighting for the belt. Okay? And DC came out, and Rumble was smoking everybody. Ridiculous. DC came out and he's like, if you told me a few years ago that all I had to do to win the belt was to beat Rumble Johnson, I'd say I already won. and everybody was like, oh, he's being overconfident. Rumble's got this ridiculous power, which he does. And what happened? DC came out, took one punch from him, floored him. He got up and made it look easy for the rest of the fight. Dominated with his wrestling, beat him up a little bit, got the stoppage, right? He was never worried about it. If he was fighting Ngannou, I don't think he would feel that same way. I don't think he would feel that same way if he knew in 12 weeks or whatever it was that he had to step in across the cage against Ngannou. I think Ngannou's got that type of power where he makes everybody, where it doesn't matter what you've seen, where you've been, who you've been in there with in the past. He's got that type of power that makes everybody worry, right? Just like Deontay Wilder does in boxing. So, really looking forward to seeing him get the title shot. I think he's earned it at this point. After he got that, he was obviously there once before, lost to Stipe, and he had to work his way back. I think he's done that. I think he's paid his dues. He's worked his way back. I think that he should be next in line for the shot, at the shot for the belt. What an impressive performance. If they still gave out knockout of the night honors, he definitely would have got it with that one.